Hi, everybody. Welcome to the office hours for the third week of our class on how to better cover campaigns by focusing on communities and solutions. I'm Jessel Noor, and I'm here with my colleague Linda Shaw, who's going to be joining us a little bit. But yeah, we're here to answer any questions you might have about solutions journalism or anything that came up in the course. Um, we are really excited that so many people were interested in this course. We know that this is not like a quick thing to learn because it does require approaching journalism very differently. Requires a different way of thinking about journalism and thinking about what our role is in journalism. When I was learning solutions journalism a few years ago, it took me a while. It was not a quick thing. So yeah, it's part of why we created this course to give you feedback, to give you support, to answer your questions. Feel free to come off mute or put your questions in the chat. I'll have the chat box open. You know, we got some interesting feedback in the forums. I'm also curious what you thought about the interviews, if you've had a chance to check them out. Yes, and there were questions I don't know let me see if there's questions from the instructors. Let me pull it up. Oh, okay, let's see what we got. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no questions for us yet on about solutions yet, but we in the discussion section, we got some really interesting feedback. So I'm gonna go through those to start off with. And if anyone here has questions, feel free to put them in the chat or to come off mute. I think you should be able to come off mute. But yes, welcome. And also feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're joining from and why you're taking this course. So the first, and actually I can just share my screen, I think, so everyone can see what I am talking about. Okay. All right. I'm going to share my screen. So as you can see, we have this question from Shireen, or not a question, but a comment. And a question we had posed was do you use solutions journalism in your reporting? And you can see my screen, I believe. And so Shireen shared that, hi, everyone. In my work, I usually focus not on a problem, but on a response to that problem. It offers insight about what can be learned from that response, provides evidence that it works or doesn't, and it places the response in a wider context, but by not shying away from covering possible limitations. In fact, solutions journalism, because of the relationship that it creates with audience members, is part of that response that we need to find as journalists to gain greater trust with audiences. And so that is like a really great way to apply solutions journalism, to think about solutions journalism. So that was I thought, a really insightful response to that question. And let's go. Okay. Ibrahim, there's a question about can you use solutions journalism to hold politicians accountable, elected officials accountable? And Ibrahim shared that solutions journalism can be employed to hold elected officials accountable by focusing not only the problems they face, but also how they're responding to those problems, by highlighting successful strategies and initiatives that address issues within their jurisdictions. Journalists can provide a benchmark against which the performance of elected officials can be measured. Um, Additionally, solutions-oriented reporting can shed light on effective government practices, innovative policies, community-driven initiatives, prompting elected officials to adopt similar policies or take action where necessary. So that is so well put. That is absolutely a way that solutions journalism can be used to hold elected officials accountable, and to do more than just pointing out what the problems are, because I think we're all very, that's something that the media already does really well. It already covers problems really well. So this provides a way for journalists to innovate and to do something different that no one else is doing. Um, let's see. Whoops, went to the wrong activity. And let's see. There's another one. Um, this is from Tamo Capisa. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but um, they say that solutions journalism can be a powerful tool by focusing on both the problems and potential solutions, not only during an election period, by continuously reporting on not just problems, but what is being done to address them. It can be used as a tool to track whether politicians keep their promises by assessing the progress being made to fulfill them, which is absolutely right. That is absolutely a powerful way that solutions journalism can be used. So yeah, so we're here to take your questions. My name is Jessel Noor. I'm the Democracy Cohort Manager for Solutions Journalism Network. I'm here with my colleague Linda Shaw, longtime journalist who is also with Solutions Journalism Network. Feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. We understand that, we know that we gave you a lot of materials. So if you haven't had a chance to check it all out yet, that's totally fine. But we're here to chat. Um, and I also shared in my message this week that I'll actually be applying some of the skills that we're demonstrating. I'll be demonstrating some of those skills later this week on Thursday at 6 o'clock Eastern in Baltimore, Maryland. I'll be hosting a mayoral forum on transportation, and we'll actually be taking questions directly from the audience. There's an app. Um, that allows the audience to submit their questions and upvote and downvote them. So it's like a direct form of engagement. And I'll also be asking some questions that were submitted by young people in Baltimore through the Baltimore News Collaborative, where I serve as the project manager. So I'm really excited about that. There was also a city council president forum a couple weeks ago, but that got canceled because that was right after the bridge collapse, the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse. So that ended up getting canceled, unfortunately. But yeah, these are tools that you can use to not only in your reporting, but also in election coverage overall, because we know that election coverage goes beyond just doing reporting, and it's a way to really, as was pointed out by some of the commenters on the forums. It's a way to really build trust with your audience and really give them something to invest in, give them something that is there, something that really can embrace, which makes it a really powerful tool. And then also, it's a way to hold politicians accountable and help them do better. Elected officials are in office for a long time, and we hope that they're in office to serve their communities, and by holding them accountable and by showing them where things are working or things are failing, that's one way that journalism can be a check on on the people in power in this democratic system. So does anyone here have any questions? We're happy to take any. Connie, Adriana, RM, Tiffany, Linda, do you have any questions? Linda is here just to join in and see if anyone needs more help. But Linda, do you have any thoughts? I told you, I promised I wouldn't put you on the hot seat, but
That's okay. I'd be really curious to hear a little bit about from Connie and Adriana and RM or Tiffany, if they have any, how the course is going for them so far, even if you don't have any questions yet. Maybe we can put that in the chat because maybe it's hard for
yeah.
folks to,
Oh, okay, yeah.
or coming in and out too. So that's
Yeah.
fine. But really, really good to see these comments, Jessel. Folks are putting some very interesting comments in the forum, and that's great.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at another one of the comments. This is by Maxwell Mateo. Solutions journalism is a potent instrument for ensuring accountability among elected officials. It not only brings problems to light, but also explores potential remedies and assesses the efficacy of policies and actions taken by authorities. This approach is multifaceted. Investigative reporting on solutions is a hallmark of solutions journalism, diverging from the traditional focus on government failures. Instead, it scrutinizes successful policies and practices elsewhere, compelling officials to consider similar approaches for addressing shared challenges effectively. Really interesting stuff. In conclusion, solutions journalism offers a balanced and constructive approach to reporting, evaluating policies, and empowering citizens to demand transparency, accountability, and positive change in governance. Its multifaceted strategies contribute significantly to holding elected officials accountable and driving meaningful progress. Great insights. Great insights from folks. And, one thing that I think it's always helpful to think about too is that, solutions journalism isn't, we can talk about the merits of it and argue that it's a good tool, and that's all, it's an effective tool. We talk about that and have that discussion. But another thing that's important to talk about too in these conversations is that this is something that audiences really want. I'm going to pull up a survey here. This is from the Reuters Institute 2023 Digital News Report. Even news avoiders surveyed were more likely to say they're interested in positive or solutions-based journalism and less interested in big stories of the day. So that's 46% of people. Average of selected. So this is, so this is like really, really important to remember. And this is something that I heard of. I was at a journalism summit in Ohio, just narrowly missed the eclipse there. But I heard from one publisher that did a 10-city tour, and they found that in every city they went to, people wanted solutions journalism. Even though they might not know that solutions journalism is a concept in journalism and an idea in journalism, they wanted to know what they could do to address the problems. We talked to another university professor there who's researching local news and democracy, and she has found that audiences want solutions journalism. They want journalism that does something differently, goes beyond just reporting what's happening, but gives people the knowledge they need, not just information, but knowledge they need to change the world and to exercise their power in this democracy. And so I think that is really, really important. That's really important because we know that, as journalism is in crisis, democracy is in crisis, we have tools at our disposal that we can use as our role, through journalism to help address those crises and really speak to people that feel like they aren't being listened to. Here's another 2017 some research from the Institute for Applied Positive Research found that solutions-oriented reporting made people feel less anxious, more energized, and more connected to the community. And that was 2017. And since the pandemic, we know that mental health and feeling disconnected from the world has been a huge problem. Here's some research from Smith Geiger, which is a leading media research firm. They in 2020 and 2021. Oh, and yes, let me drop a link to all this research I'm reading out. It's on our Solutions Journalism's website. Smith Geiger talked to 600 local news consumers in 6 television markets across the country to understand the impact of solutions journalism. Found audience rated solution stories as much more interesting and important than conventional stories. After watching solution stories, they were much more likely to take action, talk to others about the stories, search for more information online, and feel inspired to get involved. And the stories also built loyalty to the station that aired them. So, study after study, more from readers of Chattanooga Times Free Press found that public discourse, at least on Twitter, increased following the publication of solution stories. People read, people get this information, get this knowledge, and they want to share it, which is what we want as journalists, right? And that's something that we can measure. And that's really important for newsrooms. It's important for funders. It's important for advertisers. That's a really um, important thing that to know that solutions journalism is have found to make this impact. Um, and we a lot of, many of us are familiar with the problems with journalism, but 2021, Pew Research found 42% of U.S. adults have little or no trust in in the information that comes from news organizations. Um, and research conducted by Smith Geiger again shows 83% of respondents said they trusted a solutions journalism story. By comparison, only 55% said the same about a problem-focused story. Um, and in terms of we hear that, okay, well, if I do a horse race focused story, if I do a problem focused story, I know I'm going to get engagement, and that's what our publishers want. But but research shows that consumers of solutions journalism are more engaged, which opens the door for people to find financial support. Solution stories are more likely readers of solution stories are more likely to click through the headlines to read the full story and spend more time on the news site and are more likely to return to that website in the future. If they feel like they're getting something that they can't get anywhere else, it makes sense, right? That they're going to go back to that source. Um, uh, the trace found a 29% increase in subscribers when they oh, that wasn't the trace, sorry, that was maybe the Press Gazette. Ooh. Positive News Magazine found that, and then the trace launched a newsletter. The trace is focused on gun violence, which is a problem in the United States. But when they released and launched a newsletter highlighting potential solutions, the newsletter received a much bigger response than was expected. And Linda and I found with the newsrooms we've worked with that when journalists really and newsrooms commit to solutions journalism, they have a strong impact in their communities. One example of that is this is and for one example of that, we talked to um, the Current in Lafayette, Louisiana, and the publisher Christian Mader, who found that he found that once they adopted solutions journalism, which is now embedded in their in the work they do, they had much greater community engagement. They found that and once they did a solutions focused voter guide, that their engagement with young people, their target audience, increased pretty dramatically. And so that was one of the takeaways with Christian. Hugo Balta, we have an interview with Hugo about how solutions journalism has transformed the work he does, and he's doing really exciting things. Last year, he hosted a MOOC for the Knight Center on solutions journalism, which did really, really well. Now he's translating it into Spanish, which will be out soon. And he's got a TV show coming out for the Chicago market focused on solutions, which is really exciting. We also have Natalia Contreras, who's a reporter for VoteBeat, which is they don't focus on elections, but they focus on democracy and voting. And they found that solutions journalism, even for, even covering voting in Texas, where solutions can seem, far and few between, that's still a powerful tool and can be, and still can be effective in highlighting what's working, even within a state, looking at other counties and what's working. So that's been an effective tool for her as well.
Yeah, and Jessel, it's probably good, as you said at the beginning, to talk a little bit about, the power of solutions journalism and tying it to, directly tying it to elections and political reporting, because that's sometimes hard, as you mentioned, for folks to wrap their head around. What role does it play when you're helping folks decide who to vote for example? So I was thinking maybe it'd be good to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. Yeah, and that's one of the great things about this course is that because we outline in this course, we outline the problem in political reporting, that is an overemphasis on horse race reporting. Next week, we'll talk about the problem with conflating everything into us versus them narratives with complicated narrative. But yeah, so we know that newsrooms want to be invaluable sources to their communities, and we know that they want their audiences to be informed. But what a growing number of newsrooms are realizing now, and a growing number of people are realizing, 1,000 people have almost 1,000 people have signed up for this course, is that you can't inform people without doing rigorous reporting on the proposals that candidates are making, right? Um, it's one thing to let candidates give candidates a platform and to listen to what they're promising, but but what solutions journalism gives us is a way to actually evaluate whether those promises have been effective. Are they based on, you can ask candidates, where's the evidence that this proposal has worked before in our city, in our county, in our state, or another one? Where has it worked in the past? What makes you think that this is going to be an effective solution to the problems we're facing in our community? And our program, our course for this week shows you how to really dig into those claims. And so when you're reporting back to your audience, you're not just telling them what a candidate said, right? Anyone can tell them what a candidate said, but you're actually looking at the evidence. You're telling them whether the candidate has a credible reason for believing that their proposal is going to be effective. And we know that by digging into the evidence and by looking at what the evidence is. So that's really what makes solutions journalism so invaluable, because it's a way to use evidence, to use rigorous reporting to inform the public about the choices they have and the implications of those choices, and it gives them a chance to vote for candidates that can prove that their positions and their policies are based on evidence. And so solutions journalism is a really powerful tool, something that is missing from a lot of political reporting, but it's catching on. Along with the rise in engagement reporting, we had a whole week on engagement last week. If you can combine engagement and solutions and also build some transparency and trust in it, that is a really invaluable tool. And that's a transformative tool to make democracy actually work and to make democracy responsive to the needs of communities. And we know that democracy is in crisis, journalism is in crisis, but we have a way to address that crisis. And journalists have a big role to play in that.
Right. Yeah. And in addition, Jessel, we've seen through our work at Solutions Journalism Network, how solutions journalism can be an important tool just in the way you described. But also in doing something, once you you utilize the engagement skills that you learned in the last module. Once you get that information, solutions journalism also is a very powerful way to use that information. I mean, if you ask your audience a question, what do you want politicians to be talking about to compete for your vote? What are the issues that are most important to you? Once you get that information, you can use it to, of course, question the candidates, to put together your voter guide, but you can also use it to drive your coverage and to ensure that you're keeping those issues that the public cares most about front and center, to evaluate politicians' ideas, as Jessel said, but also to ask the question, who's doing it better? And looking for examples that can help inform your community of promising practices elsewhere that might be worth looking at in your communities. So just wanted to add that, Jessel.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. And that's one of the things that Christian talks about in his interview. So, one of the things I've noticed talking to journalists that sometimes is that journalists can be hesitant to look at who's doing it better, because we know journalists often report on certain communities, and so if something's happening outside their communities, then that's different than what they're used to doing. But Christian noted that policymakers, city officials, mayors, council people, they are all talking to one another, right? They're already going to conferences. They're already getting on the phone. They're already traveling to other cities to understand what's working. So this isn't something foreign. This isn't an idea that's like an abstract idea. It's already happening. And journalism can, you know, be a lens to evaluate what's actually working, to look for evidence, to ask the questions, how do we know? How do we know this is true? How do we know that this program you're bringing into the city is effective or can be effective here, and what lessons need to be learned? So I definitely recommend checking out that interview, because he really talks about how he was able to use that model at the Current in Lafayette to really make solutions journalism an effective tool there.
Jessa, we've had a couple other folks join us. I just wanted to say hello and also open the invitation to, we're just kind of discussing solutions journalism um, in general and also how it applies obviously to political and elections coverage. So please put any thoughts you have or any questions you have in the chat. Jessel, is that probably the best way for now?
Yeah, I think you can come off mute if you prefer. We know that we gave you a lot of materials to go through, and it's fine if you haven't gone through all of them yet. That's totally fine. But we are here to help. We're here to be a resource for you. You can, put some questions in you can put questions in the forum. You can send questions to the instructors. We're here to support you, and we're excited that you're taking this course. And we know that we know none of this is easy, but you can do it. Like we have put together, we have put together the guide that I wish I had when I was learning solutions journalism. Um, so yes, we are here.
I think there's
We're only
one person off mute. Do you have a question? And
yeah.
go ahead.
Is it Eka Tarini? Can you hear us? We
Oh,
can't seem to hear you.
I
Oh,
thought I heard him say something, maybe not, or she.
yeah. Well, we got more people coming in. Yeah, and we can talk about anything. We're curious about how the course is going for you. Have you found it helpful? Um, what you found helpful? Is there anything that's been challenging in it? Do you need more clarity or clarifications on anything? Let us know. And yeah, we totally understand if you haven't gotten through all the material yet. Um, the class is self-guided. You can catch up. It's not too late. And I just wanted to remind everyone that this whole session is recorded. So if you missed part of it, you want to go back. Um, Someone said something helpful. We will. This entire recording will be made available afterwards. In the chat, we had posted a link about some of the research behind solutions journalism, which I think is really helpful.
Oh, we should
Everyone
probably
I've
drop
talked
that
to.
again in for the new.
Okay. Oh,
Ah,
we know that solutions journalism is, we know a lot of people find it a good idea and powerful, but it's also backed by evidence. And so that's something to also keep in mind that we got another person joining. That, it's not just like a good idea. It's something that's an effective tool that can counter some of the challenges that journalism faces.
absolutely. And for those of you who are new to solutions journalism, sometimes folks can worry that it's fluffy or soft journalism. I found it to be just the opposite. To me, it's an accountability tool, not to uncover new problems. That's sort of the job of traditional investigative reporting, but to poke at the status quo, to ask hard questions about big problems that have been ongoing in your community and ask, does it have to be this way? What might we try? Who else has tried something that might be useful here? So I've seen it work very effectively as a tool of accountability.
Absolutely. And yeah, and is if you are grounding your solutions journalism in rigorous reporting, incredible evidence, in a thorough examination of limitations, then it's not going to be fluffy. It's going to be hard hitting and really asking tough questions that you might not be asking if you weren't doing solutions journalism. I am checking out some of the comments. Um, Another comment from the discussion is from Karen Llewellyn from Common Ground Media in Toronto, who said our organization is a program area under certain up distribution. We do not engage in activism journalism, but solutions focused work. And so they have some examples on their site, which is great. Welcome to the folks that are just joining. We're here for our office hours. You can ask us anything you like about solutions journalism. We also want to know how the course is going. If you've had any challenges or problems with the course. If you've liked it so far, feel free to come off mute or drop a question in the chat. So I just got back. I was mentioning earlier, I got back from a journalism summit last week and found that one outlet had a 10-city listening tour, and they found people in every city overwhelmingly wanted solutions journalism. And, heard from multiple journalists that their audiences want solutions reporting, and they're ready to give up the horse race. They've found that it's not effective. They don't enjoy doing horse race reporting, and they're really looking to um, and they're looking to solutions journalism as an alternative. And so we have a question from RM, confused about the statement, solutions journalism is not advocacy. That's a really common question we get. So in solutions journalism, you are not advocating or supporting a position. You are doing rigorous reporting on a response to a problem. So you're not endorsing or supporting a given position, but you're examining the efficacy of that policy, of that program. You're seeing if there's evidence that suggests that it's effective or not. You're talking about the limitations of it. You are looking for insight, seeing what other people in your community can learn from it or what others can learn from it. And you're talking to people that are affected by it. And so that's the fact that you're talking about limitations, and you're looking for evidence is what makes solutions journalism different than advocacy. And
Yeah,
like we just said.
Oh, go ahead, Jessel. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, one example that we often use is one that came out of the Cleveland Plain Dealer in Cleveland, Ohio, that did a mix of problem and solutions reporting around childhood lead poisoning. And I once heard the reporter, who was one of the main reporters on that series, explain it really well. She certainly cared about the high rate of childhood lead poisoning in Cleveland and wanted to see that go down. Certainly could advocate for that, but wasn't advocating for any particular of the various ways that the community was exploring to try to bring that level down. In that sense, she was using the solutions journalism approach of examining those responses, not advocating for any one of them. But that was an interesting distinction to me. I don't know if that resonates with some of you, but it's sort of like saying, yeah, as journalists in a democracy, we do, in essence, advocate for democracy in that we encourage people to vote. We want to get them information they need to make a good vote. We want to encourage participation in the political process. But we're agnostic when it comes to the ways of how to do that. Did I state that clearly, Jessel?
Yes. Does that answer your question? I meant it. Sorry, I did not mean to do that, but I meant to share my screen just to put up a little example of a little. I found a little visual of the that series that Linda was talking about from the Cleveland plain dealer, just to give you all a visual of what they were able to accomplish there, taking away the excuse of city officials behaving with extreme negligence about a public health crisis. Um, and yeah, and to Linda's point, like, you know, it's okay, part of this course, we talk about what it means to be pro-democracy. And, that is something that we don't think, we don't think it's advocacy to be pro-democracy. I mean, you're advocating for democracy, which is not like, the assumption is that it's negative, but it doesn't have, we don't believe that, don't buy that, that argument that that's negative. And, yeah, and like, it's okay to say we don't want children to get lead poisoned, right? That's not like, that's not advocacy as something that's like negative. That's, as long as it's rooted in journalism, in rigorous reporting, that's part of the tradition of powerful journalism. Yes, RM, please let us know if that makes sense. And if anyone else has any questions, please drop them in the chat, come off
Yeah, even if you
mute.
joined late, please, we can address your questions. We haven't addressed a ton so far, so don't be worried that we might have already addressed it. This is also an example, as we were talking earlier, of a solution story that had a huge impact. It was the series of stories that the Cleveland Play Dealer did over a series of years that eventually led to the city council passing landmark legislation to work toward prevent childhood lead poisoning, which never had happened before in the city. I think they stated there, right? Yes.
Yes, a story. So
Did you drop
yes,
this link in the chat as well, Jessel? This study?
no, I will do that. Is this something we can share publicly? I guess so. Cool. Yeah, I'll drop this in, copy link. Thank you. Oh, great. Answered your question.
Great, thanks.
Yeah. And another thing we want this space is, if you're, another thing we can offer in this space right now for the next 30 minutes or 20 minutes is, if you have stories that you want to brainstorm, you want to workshop, we can do that. If you're reporting a problem focused story right now and that you want to brainstorm how to turn that into a solution story, let us know what that is, and we can help you think of that. And that's also something you can put into the forums as well. But between us, we have a lot of experience working with a lot of journalists on helping them brainstorm solution stories. And sometimes that can be the hardest part. Just getting started, getting that momentum can seem overwhelming and daunting, but we're here to help you. We want to see everyone. We want to see everyone produce a solution story after this and work it into your workflow. So, okay, let me
maybe make a PDF of that you can share, Jessel.
Yeah, let me do that.
We'll get that to you before the end of the session.
Yeah, let me hop off and do that real quick. Yes, welcome.
One method. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jessel.
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
One method that a lot of folks that have found very useful in getting started with solutions journalism is to just make a simple grid. You've learned, if you've watched the first video, it goes over the 4 pillars of solutions journalism. If you haven't yet, check it out. We call them the pillars. They're really the 4 elements that we think make for strong solutions journalism, and really make for strong journalism, period. But if you just make a simple grid on a piece of paper and write the name of one of the pillars in each quadrant, and then organize your reporting around that, a lot of folks have found that really helpful as a way to get started. And not to forget, solutions reporting is just good reporting. But it does require collecting a little bit different information than you sometimes do with problem-focused stories, and ask some questions that you might not ask in the same way. So just having that grid can help remind you to do that as you're reporting and not have to go back and do it.
And it turns out we have this story under optional resources. We have this grid here.
Oh, we have the grid. Yay.
We have it included. And so this is what Linda was talking about. This is how you can organize your ideas. And this is a PDF that you can all just download and print out or, use on your computers. Um, what's the what's the problem you want to tackle? Um, so this would be like what the problem story you would normally do. This is where a problem story, this is in a traditional problem focused story, this is the entire story. What makes a solution story different is that that's just the start of the solution story. So instead of focusing your entire story on the problem, you're taking the problem or a piece of it and finding a response to it, something that you have found that is making an impact, and you know it's making an impact because you have found evidence. And in this course we have questions you can ask, but you can start by writing down what evidence you have, what you would like to know, what you think you can find, what you'd like to find. Um, there's the limitations, caveats, like what can't the, what prevents the solution. We know there's no silver bullets. No solution can solve a problem entirely or immediately. So asking questions about limitations gives us an understanding of what the solution can't do, where it falls short, what's delaying it. And so that's, like we said, a key part that distinguishes solutions from advocacy. In a solution story, the how done it, how the solution actually works, makes up the heart of the story. And that's what really makes it solutions. You're explaining how it's done, by talking about the evidence and the limitations. And then the insight and lessons is what the story can teach us, right? What makes, what my community can learn from a solution happening in your community, Linda, or what your community can learn from a solution happening in my community. So this worksheet is really essential, and I really recommend everyone start with this worksheet to keep yourself organized. At least when you're doing your first couple solution stories, you don't get overwhelmed, and and just to make sure you're getting all your four pillars. You're getting your evidence, you're getting your limitations, you're getting your how done it, their response, and insight and lessons, and to make sure that your problem is just the beginning of the story. It's not the whole story, because we know that that's not the whole story.
Yeah, so this is, I said, it's got more than the four pillars. It's got also the problem and also the how done it. And that's important because as Jessel said, it's sort of the heart of your story. It can be the narrative engine of your story. Tells the story of how this response came about and what success it had and how, and what bumps in the road it's hit and why. So that's a good important piece. And you can use this both as you start reporting, and this is written that way, like when under limitations and caveats, ones you know about or need to explore. So it can be a reminder of things that you want to look for as you're reporting, or you can fill it in as you're reporting. You can use it either way, or both.
Yes, and we also recommend checking out our new website. It's very well done. Our colleague did a great job of putting this together. And a fantastic resource is our solution story tracker. We have now 16. The last time I checked, it was 15,000, and now it's 16,000 stories by 9,100 journalists and 2,000 outlets from 90 countries. Really, this is a global movement. And we have Sojo in different languages, and we have different focuses and democracy obviously is a big one. And, really looking at where progress is being made to address some of these challenges to democracy. So a story here from the Maine Morning Star about how people are working to increase voter participation for people that are incarcerated. Fascinating story. Some of the newest stories. This one I thought was really fascinating, from Politico. talks about drug decriminalization, why Portland failed where Portugal succeeded in decriminalizing drugs. So I'll look at who's doing it better, really digging, going past the polarizing nature of stories about harm reduction and really digging into the mechanics of how these different responses worked, where they diverged, and where one city found success in Portugal and why Portland failed. So these are the kind of stories that can make an impact and really be instructive for communities.
Yeah, and as we're getting to the end here, it's probably worth repeating for some of you who joined late. We were talking a little earlier about why this is such a solutions journalism is such an important tool for political and elections reporting, and talked a little bit just to reiterate that it's one strong way to use the information you gain from engaging with your audience and asking them what's most important to them. A really important way to use that information is not just to question the candidates about those issues, not just put them in your voter guide, but actually adopt those as coverage priorities, and both vet what the politicians' ideas to see if there's evidence there to show that those are promising practices and actually worth trying. And also just generally as journalists to ask that solutions journalism question, who's doing it better, to highlight other efforts elsewhere that might have something to help our communities actually address and solve problems.
Absolutely. I wanted to play, let me try something real quick. Before we go, I wanted to play this video of a video from our cohort of fellows last year who embedded solutions reporting into their work and what they found. So we can end on this. It's about a 3-minute clip. And feel free to keep engaging with us in the forums if you have more questions. We definitely want to help you report these solution stories, answer all your questions. I'll be on the forums all week and then next week as well. So we're going to end on this, and yeah, thank you all for attending.
Yeah, and I'll just add, no question is too dumb. That as journalists, both Jessel and I, it took us a long time to learn solutions journalism. So please don't hold back. Any question, welcome, even critical ones. Those are important as well. So please don't hold back.
Yeah, I've been speaking to a lot of journalists and college students in the last month or so, and the questions people are being asked are tough questions, but they're really important questions. They've been helpful for me and helpful for the people asking them to really sort of dig deeper. And so we welcome those questions. Feel free to put them in the discussion forums as well. All right, we wanted to share this quick video with you to show you what's possible through solutions.
We're in a moment where future generations of journalists will operate on the ethics that we have developed in response to this moment. That we're in the Watergate, in the McCarthy, in the Pentagon Papers era of our time.
We always talk about how this type of work, solutions reporting, these in-depth stories that are focused on the audience, how that, for some reason in our heads is like the enemy of like good clicks and like good views and revenue driven coverage. And what I feel like we found is that doing this work, solutions journalism, trusting news, engagement reporting, citizens agenda, they all are great for engagement and for views and getting more people interested in your coverage, actually.
Something that we learned is not do the horse race thing that we used to do just because we were always reacting to the news. And we have been working really hard on prepping a plan for next year election coverage in Arizona and in Mexico at the same time, and trying to debunk misinformation that we are getting spread.
Because our team is very small and we have limited resources too, we find this program very, very useful and allow us to learn and to experiment with these new skills and insights. We apply, it could be for the first time in a formal way, the solution framework, and we were able to produce a story about a solution that a family of asylum seekers get to have a permanent housing, which is a huge problem in this city and in others. That is something that makes us very proud.
We don't always have the time and the resources to plan ahead this early. And so we have this great, long list of stories that we plan to do that's really just kind of a roadmap to let us know, who we need to be talking to, when we need to be talking to them, that sort of thing. So we're really proud of that.
Next year, it used to seem really scary, and it doesn't seem so scary anymore because we have a plan. So I think the training worked.
And so that was from December of last year with our cohort of the Advancing Democracy Fellowship, and just to show what the impact can be after really embracing the skills that we have. That sort of inspired us to do this MOOC, because we know that these skills can be impactful and be useful for journalists that are trying to do something different, trying to make an impact and give their communities and their audiences the information that they want. So thank you all for attending. Thank you, Linda, for tag teaming this with me. And yeah, we'll see you guys on the message boards. Bye, everyone.